First, welcome to our real story. I know it's not really making headlines these days, but there's a recent spike in violence in the war that we're fighting, and you need to hear about it. So give me 30 seconds here. Over the past few weeks, top-ranking police official was shot 50 times outside of his home. The latest in a string of 8 high-ranking police assassinations at the hands of violent militias. Lower-ranking policemen and soldiers have been dragged out of their homes, in front of their families, out into the street, and beheaded or shot. The government has lost control of entire areas, and law enforcement officials have been begging the U.S. for asylum. Sounds pretty bad, right? Well, here's the real story. These events are not taking place in Iraq or Afghanistan. They are happening right along our own border with Mexico, 5 miles from U.S. cities like El Paso. Of course, now, you never know this is happening if you listen to our politicians or the media, who just seem to dismiss illegal immigration as, oh, they just hate Hispanics. That's what it is. It's a security issue. Let's take a look at some of the facts. In 2001, there were 335 assaults against our border agents. These are our troops just as much as the troops are over in Afghanistan. This year, there have already been 362 assaults in 4 months. At that rate, we're going to end the year with 1,068 assaults on our border agents. But the numbers don't tell the whole story. Our border agents are often pinned down by sniper fire from drug cartels trying to sneak their people across the border, and our agents are often outgunned and overwhelmed. This is an all-out war, and it's happening right along our border. So as we head into another election season, what is it going to take for any of these candidates to stop talking about global warming, the frickin' polar bears, and flag pins, and start talking about a war that no one wants to admit we're really fighting? Former White House Press Secretary Ari Fleischer is with us. Hi, Ari.
Len, how are you?
Not going to happen, is it? This border fence, this border stuff,
well, what's really happened is the whole passion that was behind this issue in the Republican primary has now faded, with John McCain being a border state senator who comes from a different position on this issue than a lot of the conservatives.
Right.
Barack Obama certainly won't make it an issue. It's a fading issue.
But here's the thing. But it's not with the American people.
Fading in the campaign. It's a fading issue in the
it's not with the American people.
That's correct.
These guys, this is not a conservative issue. This was 70% of the American people. You know, how is it that they can be so far out of step?
Well, it's a terribly complicated issue, as you know. Part of the answer is also, do you or don't you allow people who have been in this country illegally to stay in this country?
But you know what?
How do you handle that giant population that's here? How do you shut down a current border that's still a leaking border? We're getting better at closing the border in a lot of places. It's one of the reasons there's an uptick in violence. Long way to go.
They don't care what the American people think. I don't think these weasels in Washington care. Do you know that Wednesday they're going to vote on yet another bill? They have tucked amnesty in the war spending bill yet again. I mean, I feel like it's the Declaration of Independence. Stop injuring us.
Well, the whole issue is, can you secure the border first, or do you need to do something comprehensive? And Washington is split on that. Republicans are split on that. And that's one of the reasons it's faded as a political issue, because Republicans aren't unified.
Okay. Do you think there's any chance that John McCain wins?
Yes.
Do you?
Yeah. I think it's a 50-50. I think if any Republican other than John McCain, and I'm not exactly a John McCain Republican myself.
Yeah.
I'm more conservative. But any other Republican could not win in this environment, Glenn. It's that bad for Republicans right now.
But it's because they're not really Republicans. I mean, we're going to talk to John Voight here in a second, but they're not really Republicans. I'm sorry, they are Republicans. That's a party. They're not conservatives.
Yeah, when it really came down to it, can you cut spending? Can you reduce the size of government? It only became a question for everybody of, can government just grow slower rather than can you actually stop the growth entirely?
What happened?
I think Republicans hit the political reality of, a lot of people say they're for cutting spending, but when the truth comes to it, they really don't mean what they say. And they want to come home, deliver pork, deliver bacon, and deliver big spending programs.
So when you have a big issue, like, for instance, oil, I mean, here we are sitting with oil and huge problems. I mean, Rome is burning, and nobody's really doing anything.
Well, I can't believe when President Bush was over in Saudi Arabia and we're asking Saudi Arabia to increase production, shouldn't the answer be, why don't we increase our own? We have huge untapped supplies of energy in this country, but largely because of environmental rules, we're not going about doing it. We can help protect ourselves, and we're not doing it.
All right. We had the President of the United States fly over to another country, practically get down on his knees and beg them for oil. These are people that still use camels for transportation. I mean, what are we doing?
There's nothing wrong with George Bush asking Saudi Arabia or anybody else to increase their production. It's
we
one
are
big pot. It helps all of us. That's the point.
Right.
We need to be developing our own resources here at home. Now, John McCain, again, this is the irony. One reason he might win is because he's different from Republicans on environmental issues. He's against developing our oil supplies up in Alaska, in Anwar. I'm for it. He's against it. He might win.
But the American, I don't see that as a win. The American people lose.
Well, my point is, you asked, can he win an election? He can win an election because he's such a different kind of Republican in an anti-Republican year. For somebody like me, who's ideologically a lot more pure, he's not my exact cup of tea.
Yeah.
He's not George Bush's third term. He is a centrist. He is a maverick, and that's one of the reasons he might win.
Okay. All right. Thanks. We'll be watching together as everything shimmies apart.